We all know the ending, right? Tower Green. The sword swings, chop. Anne Boleyn loses her head, and Henry VIII goes on to swipe left on four more wives. It's classic boring history class stuff. But wait, what if she didn't? Let's rewind to 1523. Forget the crown, forget the politics. Look at this. While the king is busy fantasizing about her, Anne isn't playing hard to get, she's playing hard to find. She runs, not to the throne, but to her first love, Henry Percy. A secret wedding in the dead of night. No pomp, no circumstance. Just quick, dirty, and absolutely irreversible. When Henry finds out, oh boy, he is furious. We're talking the kind of royal rage that usually ends with heads on spikes. But guess what? He is powerless. He can't touch her. The marriage is consummated. The church looks at the King of England and says, checkmate. Anne touches her neck. It's smooth, intact, still firmly attached to her shoulders. She thinks she just dodged the biggest bullet in history. She thinks she won the ultimate game of survival. Smart move, right? Or was it? Do you think so? Let's see. Because here is the ugly truth. By saving her own pretty neck, Anne just accidentally murdered the entire British Empire. Think about it. No Anne means no Elizabeth I. And no Elizabeth means, well, welcome to a world where we're all speaking Spanish. So with the temptress gone, welcome to the new reality. And let me tell you, it is beige. Without the electric chaos of Anne Henry VIII isn't the serial husband monster we love to hate. He's just a sad fat guy stuck in a dead-end marriage. He remains glued to Catherine of Aragon, who is lovely, sure, but she's aging, she's praying, and she's definitely not giving him a son. Henry doesn't rage. He just sighs. He eats his feelings, gets gout, and stays a good boy. He remains a devout Catholic, attending Mass and nodding along to whatever the Pope says. No rebellion, no fire, just a lot of roasted venison and regret. And what about Anne? The woman who was supposed to set the world on burn, she becomes the ultimate historical nobody. She's living the Northumberland dream. She's Mrs. Percy now. Wealthy? Yes. Safe? Absolutely. She spends her days managing a castle, popping out a dozen babies, and complaining about the weather. It sounds peaceful, doesn't it? A nice long life ending in a warm bed with her head still on her neck. But here's the dark joke of history. Peace is boring. Happiness writes terrible biographies. In this timeline, Anne Boleyn is a footnote. She is totally anonymous. No movies about her, no jewelry with her initials, no ghost stories. She fades into the dust, completely forgotten. Sound like a fairy tale ending? Not quite, because here is the massive problem. Without Anne Boleyn acting as the devil on his shoulder, Henry never finds the guts to pull the trigger. He never breaks from Rome. He never declares himself head of the church. Without her seduction fueling his ego, Henry stays on the Pope's leash. The English Reformation, it never happens. England stays obedient, small, and Catholic. And that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. So Henry behaves. He stays in his lane like a good, obedient son. And because of that, England doesn't rise as a global empire. It rots as a prison. Here's the thing about the history. Henry VIII was a greedy monster. When he looked at the Catholic monasteries, those massive stone fortresses sitting on prime real estate, he didn't see God. He saw dollar signs. He dissolved them. He smashed the stained glass, kicked out the monks, and melted down the ancient gold crosses. It was brutal, absolutely. But it made the crown rich. Filthy rich. That stolen church money built the massive ships that would one day rule the waves. But in this timeline, none of that happens. The monasteries stay open. The monks keep chanting in Latin. And the gold, it keeps flowing south. It crosses the English Channel, climbs over the Alps, and lands softly in the Pope's deep pockets in Rome. England is dead broke. The king is penniless. We are basically just a holy ATM for the Vatican dispensing cash whenever the Pope asks. And it gets darker, much darker, because Henry is still the proud defender of the faith. Independent thought isn't just frowned upon, it is a capital crime. You want to read the Bible in English? That's a one-way ticket to the stake. The Reformation is crushed before it can even take a single breath. The air in London is thick, it smells like incense paranoia, and occasionally, the sweet, sickly stench of burning flesh. But maybe you are thinking, okay, so they are poor and religious. Is that really so bad? Do you think so? Let's zoom in. Because when you look at the details, you realize this isn't just about religion. It's about the slow, agonizing suffocation of an entire civilization. Let's talk about the money first. Because let's be real, history isn't moved by love poems or whispered prayers. It is moved by cold hard cash. In the timeline, Henry VIII was a disruption. He was the move fast and break things CEO of the 16th century. He saw the Catholic Church hoarding wealth, land gold taxes, and he liquidated it. He seized it all. That injection of capital is what allowed England to build a navy to fortify its coasts and to eventually punch way above its weight class. But in this version of reality, England is economically stagnant. It is an economic zombie. Since Henry is too terrified of eternal hellfire to touch God's property, the immense wealth of the nation remains locked away in dusty church vaults. The monasteries occupy the most fertile land, yet they pay no tax to the crown. The king, he's broke. He can't afford a standing army. He can't afford to subsidize new industries. And most importantly, he can't afford to explore the New World. Just look at the Atlantic Ocean. While Christopher Columbus Cortez and the Spanish conquistadors are out there looting the Americas, bringing back galleons so heavy with silver they can barely float, England is sitting at home counting rosary beads. We aren't participating in the global age. We are watching it happen from the sidelines. We become a third-rate country with a first-rate cathedral collection. The ports of London, usually buzzing with trade, are quiet. The merchants are struggling because all the capital is flowing one way south, over the Alps, into the Vatican's coffers. We aren't building an economy, we are just paying our membership dues to a club that doesn't care about us. But poverty. You can survive poverty. Humans are good at starving. It's the silence that kills you. I want you to close your eyes and imagine the streets of London in 1540. It's quiet. Too quiet. In the real timeline, the break from Rome was like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. It sparked a fire in the human mind. People started arguing in taverns. People started reading. The Bible was translated into English, the language of the common man, the language of the streets, the language of you and me. Suddenly, a blacksmith could read the word of God and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe the priest is wrong. That simple act, that was the spark for the Enlightenment. That questioned authority, that sparked science literature and eventually the very concept of democracy. But here, in the Catholic prison of Henry VIII, English is a dirty language. It's for buying turnips and shouting at cattle, not for reading scripture. Latin is the only language that matters. And if you don't speak Latin well, you just shut up, keep your head down, and listen to what you are told. The thought police are everywhere. Figures like Cardinal Wolsey and Thomas More aren't just advisors. They act like the FBI of the soul. They have networks of spies everywhere. If you possess a Tyndale Bible, that dangerous little book written in English, you aren't just a criminal, you are a terrorist. And William Tyndale, the man who tried to bring light to the masses, in this world, he doesn't just get exiled. He gets hunted down like a dog and burned alive in Smithfield Market as a screaming charred warning to everyone else. And here is the kicker, the part that really hurts. No Shakespeare. Think about it. William Shakespeare didn't write in a vacuum. He thrived in the Elizabethan era, a time of relative tolerance, a time when the English language was exploding with new words and new ideas. But in this oppressive, hyper-Catholic regime, creative freedom dies in a cage. You can't write Hamlet, a play about killing a king and seeing ghosts when you are terrified that the Inquisition is watching your rehearsals. You can't write historical plays when history is being strictly censored by the church. Innovation requires a little bit of rebellion. And in this version of history, rebellion is dead. The English spirit is crushed under the heavy boot of orthodoxy. Shakespeare is probably just a miserable glove maker in Stratford drinking himself to death, his genius never knowing the light of day. And all of this internal rotting leads us to the biggest tragedy of all, the geopolitical nightmare, the elephant in the room, or should I say, the bull, Spain. Let's look at the map. In the 16th century, Spain was the superpower. They were the USA, China, and Google all rolled into one. They had the best ships, the deadliest guns, and unlimited gold. In our actual history, England was the scrappy underdog. We were the annoying little pirate island that poked the Spanish bear until we won. We raided their ships, we stole their gold, we sank their armada in 1588. That rivalry made England tough. It forced England to innovate to build faster ships and better cannons. But in this timeline, why would we fight Spain? Henry remains married to Catherine of Aragon. She is Spanish royalty. Their daughter Mary, who we know as Bloody Mary, but here Mary is half Spanish. England and Spain are family. And in geopolitics, when a tiny poor country is family, with a massive rich empire, you aren't partners. You are a vassal, you are a puppet. England becomes nothing more than a forward operating base for the Spanish Empire. Spanish merchants dominate the London markets, undercutting English businesses. Spanish soldiers walk the streets of Dover like they own the place, because effectively they do. We don't colonize America. Spain has a monopoly on that. We don't trade with the East. Portugal has a monopoly on that. England is boxed in. We are an island, but we aren't free. We are just a rainy, sad little province on the edge of Europe waiting for orders from Madrid. Do you see the picture painting here? It's not just about a king getting a divorce. It's about the suffocation of a nation. Henry thinks he is saving his soul. He thinks he is keeping the peace. But by refusing to break the chains, he is slowly strangling his own country. The pressure is building. The treasury is empty, the people are hungry, silenced, and humiliated, and the Spanish shadow is getting longer every single day. You know what happens when you keep a lid on a boiling pot for too long? It doesn't just cool down. It explodes. And believe me, the explosion is coming. But it won't come from the king. And it won't come from an invading army. It's going to come from the one place Henry never expected. The one variable he forgot to account for in his perfectly obedient life. Let's see what happens when the match is finally lit. You might think the tragedy here is Henry becoming a boring, obedient lapdog for the Pope. Cute, but honestly, you are looking at the wrong guy. The real horror of this timeline isn't about what happened, it's about what never happened. Here's the twist that breaks the universe. In the messy, chaotic history, we know Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, the Lioness, was the accidental byproduct of Henry's obsession. She was the wild fruit of that insane world-breaking marriage to Anne Boleyn. So do the math with me. No affair means no marriage. No marriage means no baby. In this timeline, Elizabeth isn't just different. She is a biological impossibility. She is a 404 error. File not found. Let that sink in. We just deleted the main character of the 16th century, and the moment she vanishes, the dominoes don't just fall, they incinerate. No Gloriana means no golden age. Remember that legendary moment when the Spanish Armada came to destroy England and Elizabeth rode out in armor to rally her troops? Yeah, delete that. In this world, the Armada doesn't need to attack. They just sail into the Thames and park because England is already a Spanish vassal. And it gets worse. Without Elizabeth, there is no patron for the arts. She was the one who protected the theater from the Puritans. Without her, the Globe Theater is just a pile of firewood. Shakespeare, he has no audience, no funding, and no queen to write for. The English language loses its greatest architect. So what are we left with? We have an England that is safe, and England that is Catholic, but it is an England without its voice, without its fire, without its soul. It's not a kingdom anymore. It's a zombie, walking, eating, sleeping, but completely dead inside. And you know what happens to zombies eventually? They rot. So we have a dead king and a never-born queen. Is there anyone left to save this timeline, or is this truly the end? So Henry VIII finally kicks the bucket. He dies as he lived in this timeline, fat, sad, and obedient. And with no Elizabeth to take the reins, the crown falls to his eldest daughter, Mary Tudor. Now, in our history books, we call her Bloody Mary. But here, she's not bloody. She's just compliant. Mary looks across the ocean and does the one thing that seals England's fate forever. She marries King Philip II of Spain. In the real world, this marriage was a disaster. But in this world, without the Protestant opposition, without the internal strife, it works. It works too well. This isn't just a wedding, folks. It's a corporate merger. And England is the smaller company getting swallowed whole. Philip II doesn't just become the king consort. He becomes the CEO of Europe. England is officially absorbed into the Spanish Habsburg Empire. The Union Jack never flies. Instead, the red and gold flag of Spain waves over the Tower of London. But the real nightmare isn't happening in London. It's happening across the Atlantic. Let's look at the map. Do you want to see the real tragedy? In 1494, the Pope signed the Treaty of Tordesillas. Basically, he took a Sharpie and drew a line down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He gave everything on the east to Portugal and everything on the west to Spain. In our history, England ignored that. We were pirates. We said, screw the Pope. We're going to America. We sent the Mayflower. We founded Jamestown. We built the colonies. But in this timeline, England is a good Catholic boy. England follows the rules. So when the Pope says, America belongs to Spain, England nods and stays home. There is no Jamestown. There is no Plymouth Rock. The Pilgrims. They have nowhere to run, so they are likely burned at the stake for heresy back in Europe. The ships that were supposed to carry the founding fathers are repurposed to haul Spanish wool. Fast forward 200 years. Look at North America. There is no United States. But the other 13 colonies never exist. Instead, the entire continent is New Spain. Manhattan isn't New York, it's Nueva Madrid. Wall Street, it's Calle del Muro. The White House, it's a viceroy's palace reporting directly to a monarch in Europe. Think about it. George Washington isn't a revolutionary general fighting for freedom. In this world, he's probably General Jorge, a loyal soldier suppressing local rebellions for the Spanish crown. Thomas Jefferson never writes the Declaration of Independence because the very concept of all men are created equal is heresy against the divine right of kings. And this is the kicker. This is what hurts. It's not just about the names of cities changing. It's about the death of an idea. The Anglo-American experiment, the messy, beautiful idea of democracy, free speech, capitalism, and individual rights never happens. It is strangled in the crib. The world becomes a monoculture, a global theocracy run by the Inquisition. Science is vetted by the church. Literature is censored. The Industrial Revolution. It might be delayed by centuries because innovation requires freedom and this world values obedience above all else. So you wake up in 2024 in this timeline. You speak Spanish, you go to Mass on Sunday because it's the law, and you have never heard the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They simply don't exist in your vocabulary. Do you see it now? That one moment in 1523, that one decision by Anne Boleyn to save her own life. She didn't just change her fate. She erased the modern world. She traded her head for our freedom. So was it worth it? We always look back at Anne Boleyn as the ultimate victim. And let's be honest, getting beheaded by your husband just because he wanted to upgrade to a newer model, that is the definition of a toxic relationship. We pity her, we mourn the injustice, we look at the history books and wish she could have just run away to live a happy, quiet life. But should we? Because here is the uncomfortable, ugly truth. Chaos creates greatness. Peace. Peace is often just stagnation with a better PR team. Anne's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a transaction. It was the price tag for our modernity. It was the blood sacrifice required to break the chains of the Middle Ages. Without that singular moment of brutality on Tower Green, the dominoes never fall. England never breaks from Rome. The Enlightenment never ignites. The concept of individual liberty never takes root. One woman had to lose her head so that an entire civilization could find its voice. One marriage had to implode so the modern world could explode into existence. So I'm going to hand the keys to the time machine over to you. You have the power to change it right now. You can go back to 1523, you can save Anne, you can let her marry her first love and live happily ever after. She survives, she smiles, she dies old and warm in her bed. But if you do that, you press delete on the world as we know it. The United States gone, Shakespeare gone, the very freedom to watch this video without the Inquisition knocking on your door, gone. So what is it going to be? Are you team Save Anne choosing compassion and a happy ending for one woman? Or are you team Save History admitting that sometimes the world needs a little blood to move forward? Do you have the guts to make that trade? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be reading them to see who the real monsters are. Thanks for watching and try not to lose your head over it. So with the Temptress gone, welcome to the new reality. And let me tell you, it is beige. Without the electric chaos of Anne Henry VIII isn't the serial husband monster we love to hate. He's just a sad fat guy stuck in a dead-end marriage. He remains glued to Catherine of Aragon, who is lovely sure, but she's aging, she's praying, and she's definitely not giving him a son. Henry doesn't rage, he just sighs. He eats his feelings, gets gout, and stays a good boy. He remains a devout Catholic attending Mass and nodding along to whatever the Pope says. No rebellion, no fire, just a lot of roasted venison and regret. And what about Anne? The woman who was supposed to set the world on burn, she becomes the ultimate historical nobody. She's living the Northumberland dream. She's Mrs. Percy now. Wealthy, yes. Safe, absolutely. She spends her days managing a castle, popping out a dozen babies, and complaining about the weather. It sounds peaceful, doesn't it? A nice long life, ending in a warm bed with her head still on her neck. But here is the dark joke of history. Peace is boring. Happiness writes terrible biographies. In this timeline, Anne Boleyn is a footnote. She is totally anonymous. No movies about her, no jewelry with her initials, no ghost stories. She fades into the dust, completely forgotten. Sound like a fairy tale ending. Not quite, because here is the massive problem. Without Anne Boleyn acting as the devil on his shoulder, Henry never finds the guts to pull the trigger. He never breaks from Rome. He never declares himself head of the church. Without her seduction fueling his ego, Henry stays on the Pope's leash. The English Reformation, it never happens. England stays obedient, small, and Catholic. And that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster.